and welcome to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft here in the studios for our flagship stations, Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. You can find Civic Center TV on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T Channel 99 in West Bloomfield, Keego Harbor, Orchard Lake, Sylvan Lake, and some surrounding areas as well. You can also find us on Comcast, Channel 15, and AT&T Channel 99 in Southfield, on City Cable 15 of Southfield as well, and on Channel 10, both in Waterford, on the media network of Waterford, and in Orion Township and Lake Orion. On Orion Neighborhood Television, we air there live to tape 1 o'clock in the afternoon and 1 o'clock in the morning. So whether you are taking a break in the afternoon or want some easy listening for a couple of hours in the afternoons at 1 o'clock, there in Lake Orion and Orion Township, or you're a night bird and want to keep yourself informed before you head off for the night or head in for the graveyard shift, over there, Orion Neighborhood Television on Channel 10 in Lake Orion and Orion Township. You can also join us on the radio on 88.1 WBFH, the BIF, a service of the Bloomfield Hills School District, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, out of Bloomfield Hills High School, and listen to all their original programming through the afternoons as well, with students on the air from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock Monday through Friday each week, in addition to the Megacast Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. You can also find us on the web on civiccentertv.com by clicking on our Megacast link to learn more information about everyone that we broadcast with each and every day, and find us on demand. And then on our Watch Live link, you'll be able to watch our shows live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, our replays throughout the afternoons at 1 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, and at 8 o'clock as well, and find us on demand, civiccentertv.com. You can also find us online on My Michigan TV or MyMy. Join us at mymytv.com to learn more information and find all the other original programming and imported programming all about the state of Michigan by creators all throughout the state of Michigan. And as I said, if you want to find out more information about any of our partnering stations, go to our Megacast page at civiccentertv.com or just type in civiccentertv.com/megacast, and we have links to every single one of our partnering TV and radio stations and web outlets as well, so you can learn more about everything that's going on in our communities here in Oakland County, all throughout the state of Michigan, and keep up with many and varied programs in addition to the Megacast all throughout the Great Lakes state. Also on our website at civiccentertv.com, we have some very helpful links to keep you informed on the COVID-19 front at our coronavirus page, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. There we have links directly to the Centers for Disease Control, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and the Oakland County Health Division's COVID-19 web pages, which will keep you up to date on the Omicron variant, on the continuing spread of the Delta variant as well here in the state of Michigan, vaccinations, booster shots, and more, as well as any regulations or any other precautions that are being either suggested or mandated that may be happening going forward. In addition, we have information from many municipalities here in Oakland County about how they're conducting a municipal business during the COVID-19 pandemic, how COVID-19 is affecting such business, and you can find more information at many of those links as well. Really important right now, as we are, of course, in the new year, as this is our first broadcast of 2022, and the Open Meetings Act, which was changed over the last couple of years, voted by the legislature in order to allow for virtual municipal meetings. That was not continued on in this year. So many municipalities are either going to be probably postponing or canceling meetings in some cases, and in most cases will be returning to in-person meetings as well. And so that might affect some city business or how you keep yourself both informed and have your opinions heard in your local hometown. So if you're in Oakland County, many of our municipalities here locally, we have links to their websites, and in many of those cases, it goes directly to their COVID-19 web pages, so you can keep up to date on what's happening in your hometown. Also on our coronavirus page, we keep up to date with the top headlines from across the state of Michigan, from many of our great journalistic outlets in print and other media as well here in the Great Lakes state, to keep you informed on the COVID-19 front and on other top stories as well. And making headlines already this week, the Monday COVID-19 numbers from January 3rd came in, of course, yesterday on January 3rd on Monday, and this is from Bridge, Michigan. Michigan's now reporting a daily average of more than 12,400 new cases of COVID-19 as the Omicron variant spreads rapidly throughout Metro Detroit. The state reported 61,235 new confirmed infections on Monday for the past 5 days, pushing the 7-day average to 12,442 cases per day. That is a 65% increase from the 7,533 cases per day just a week ago. Metro Detroit remains the epicenter of infections involving the Omicron variant, with 201 of those 289 confirmed cases being in Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb counties, as well as 52 in the city of Detroit, which of course is counted separately from the rest of Wayne County. This is a vast undercount, however, since the state samples only about 400 cases a week for genetic sequencing to identify variants. Until December, the state had been dealing almost solely with the Delta variant, considered less transmissible than Omicron, but more likely to result in severe illness than the Omicron variant. The new variant, which has spurred huge surges across the nation and all around the world, has sent daily case counts in Michigan to their highest levels and has pushed up hospitalizations. Admissions statewide increased 10% since last week, as the number of patients rose from 399 to 4,339 people hospitalized. Most of that increase occurred in Metro Detroit's 6 counties, which are experiencing the highest rate of new infections. In Detroit, the city is averaging 229 cases per day per 100,000 residents, far more than the statewide rate of 125 cases per day per 100,000, which is the highest ever over the course of this pandemic. Suburban Wayne County is at 179 cases per day per 100,000, with Macomb County at 178 and Oakland County at 155 cases per day per 100,000 residents. In northern Michigan, where Omicron has been largely undetected, case counts are typically below 50 or even below 30 cases per day per 100,000 residents. Testing data shows skyrocketing positive rates, with 30% of all tests in the past week coming back positive. It was 21% a week ago. Community spread is considered to be so at 3%. So we are well beyond that, 7 times beyond that just a week ago, and now we are tenfold beyond the initial evidence of community spread, which again, as is listed in this article from Bridge, Michigan, on our website, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, is at 3%. Our next story, Michigan's Redistricting Commission has officially adopted new state legislative maps. This is from the Detroit Free Press. The Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission approved a new state legislative district map on Tuesday that could shape the balance of power politically in Lansing for years to come. For the state Senate, the commission voted for its quote-unquote Linden map, with 9 commissioners backing the new map. 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 5 independent commissioners voted in favor of the plan. Republican commissioners Rhonda Lang and Aaron Wagner and Democratic commissioners Brittany Kellum and Juanita Curry favored different plans. For the State House, the commission voted for its quote-unquote Hickory plan, with 11 commissioners supporting the plan. Lang and Wagner preferred different plans on that as well. Commissioners who supported the new maps cited public comments that favored the final redistricting plans compared to alternative options on the table. But even among the commissioners who backed the districts, some expressed reservations, voicing particular concerns about the State House maps. Quote, "Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect," said Independent Commissioner Steve Lett during a press conference after the commission adopted new congressional and state legislative districts. But the commission listened to public feedback throughout the process, and the end result reflects that, he said. Continuing on, Republican Commissioner Cynthia Orton was quoted saying, "We did the best job we could." The state's Senate maps gives Democrats their best shot in years to win a majority in the state legislature's upper chamber. It still favors Republicans, according to 3 out of 4 measures of partisan fairness used by the commission based on election results from the past decade. A 4th measure indicates Democratic candidates would have an advantage under the new map. The state House map similarly chips away at Republican advantage in the current map, but unlike the state Senate map, it still favors Republicans, according to all 4 measures of partisan fairness used by the commission. Democratic political consultant Joe DeSano said that it could take multiple election cycles to shake up the political dynamics in the state, however, saying, quote, "The real test of these maps is when everyone knows what the borders are years ahead of time," and close quote. The possibility of litigation might lead to further changes on the maps, depending on how a count would weigh a challenge. The Commission's approach to complying with the Voting Rights Act of 1964, the federal law that prohibits racially discriminatory districts that deny voters an opportunity to elect their preferred candidates, has emerged as a key flashpoint, particularly in the city of Detroit. There's a lot more information on this from this article, including some key highlights from the new maps affecting Michigan's State Senate, Michigan's new House of Representatives maps, as well as adopted by the Commission. You can read this full article. We have it linked. We have the summary on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. And then if you either click on the headline itself, Michigan Redistricting Commission adopts new state legislative maps, or on the thumbnail, which is the logo of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, right to the left of that, just to the left of that article, it will take you directly to that, to the Detroit Free Press's webpage that has that full article, including links to other articles that give more information and more context, gives highlights of some of these new maps, and allows discussion as well amongst the populace that are reading these articles. Again, all that, civiccentertv.com/coronavirus. Lastly, making headlines today, some schools are expecting virus surges, are going online or are canceling classes as we begin the new year. This is from our friends at the Oakland Press. The continued rise in COVID cases across Michigan and expected surges following Christmas and the new year has extended the holiday break for some students. Classes that had been scheduled to resume on Monday in several districts have been either canceled or moved to online. The Detroit Public Schools Community District shut down school through at least Wednesday of this week. Ann Arbor Public Schools in Washtenaw County will go remote through Wednesday through Friday of this week. And just north of Detroit, Oak Park Public Schools canceled classes on Monday and said learning would be held virtually through the rest of the week, while Southfield's Public Schools, joining us today on City Cable 15 of Southfield, shifted to online remote learning for the entire week. The Lansing School District also shifted to virtual learning for the week. Teachers and staff in Lansing will, however, be required to report to their respective schools. In Pontiac, about 30 miles or 50 kilometers northwest of Detroit, public school classes will be online until January 18th. That move follows the state's reporting that more than 25,800 new cases of the virus and 338 deaths on Tuesday and Wednesday of last week. Michigan has reported 1.5 million confirmed virus cases and more than 26,900 deaths since the onset of the pandemic here in Michigan, or the declaration of pandemic here in Michigan in March of 2020. Last week, Detroit School Superintendent Nikolai Vitti cited the city's 36% virus infection rate in the district's decision to shut down. Teachers and administrators, other employees as well of the district, were being required to get tested for COVID-19 both on Monday and on Tuesday today of this week. Quote, "The high infection rate will inevitably mean that a return to in-person learning on Monday with nearly 8,000 employees and partners and nearly 50,000 students will lead to extensive COVID spread, placing employees, students, and families at risk, along with excessive staff shortages due to positive and close contact scenarios," in a statement from the superintendent on the Detroit Public Schools Community District's website. The district is looking into the possibility of distributing laptops to students this week and expects to announce plans on that as soon as Wednesday. Quote, "We simply cannot go online district-wide at the beginning of this week because all of our students do not have laptops," said Superintendent Vitti. Ann Arbor schools anticipate a return to classrooms next week, Monday, January 10th, for both students and staff, saying, quote, "We are using all the tools that we have implemented and refined during the past year to maintain the priority of critical in-school learning for our students across classrooms on as many days as possible, even as we face this current winter surge," the district said in a statement on its webpage. Health officials have warned that new cases of the highly transmissible Omicron variant has the potential to strain hospitals and staff, as we already spoke on in our first article today on Civic Center TV's coronavirus webpage. In Michigan, the number of hospitalized adults with confirmed infection rates rose roughly 3,000 to 3,900 as of Monday, according to state numbers. The figure has been dropping or holding steady for a couple of weeks from a record high of about 4,500 in mid-December of last year. That full article linked on our website at civiccentertv.com/coronavirus, as well as other articles with our top headlines from today and those very important, very helpful links from the CDC, the MDHHS, and the Oakland County Health Division about COVID-19, so you can keep up to date on information that affects you here in your hometown, here in the state of Michigan, and all across the U.S. and the world as well. We have a great show ahead of you today to kick off our 2022 Megacasts. Coming up next, Judy Richmond, an employment specialist and the Women to Work coordinator at JVS Human Services, will join us on the program. At the bottom of the 10 o'clock hour, we'll once again be joined by Share Detroit's executive director, Janette Phillips. We'll kick off the second hour of the program talking about finances with Rick Bloom from Bloom Advisors. And then at 11:20, we'll talk all about those new Senate and legislative maps that have been proposed and adopted by the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission with Commissioner M.C. Rawthorne of the MICRC on the program. And then at the bottom of the show at 11:40, attorney Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins will join us. She is an attorney that is working to help ensure that kids that are in abusive or neglective or both situations at home are being properly dealt with and are put into better situations for them and for their future as well as for their families. That is all coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
211, how can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
We may come from different organizations,
But we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
the leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior. These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance. They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different. One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games? Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking. Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe here in our studios here in West Bloomfield. You can learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast and about our show. Find us on demand as well on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us now is Judy Richmond. She is an employment specialist and the Women to Work coordinator at JVS Human Services of Metro Detroit. Joining us on the Megacast. Judy, thank you for being with us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate having you on. So we've had others that have come on the show before and have spoken about the Women to Work program. But for those that are tuning in for the first time or did not see those previous interviews or listen to those previous interviews, tell us a little bit about this program.
Okay, very happy to do that. It is a program obviously designed for women, and typically the women who participate have not worked in several years and find unexpectedly that they need to obtain employment as soon as possible. And that's where JVS helps them create all of the necessities in order to conduct an active and successful job search.
And so, Judy, the job market in Michigan has changed a lot in the recent years. JVS Human Services Women to Work program, it began 40 years ago. Certainly the job market and job prospects for women in Michigan and across the U.S. and the world has changed drastically in that time. In recent years, how has the job market and how has the job outlook for women in Michigan changed?
Well, it has evolved somewhat slowly, unfortunately, and it does continue to grow in many ways. And most recently, due to the pandemic, which is probably in the news so that everyone is aware of what's happening, the women find often that they now need to work perhaps remotely because they are taking care of children who are unexpectedly home from school, or they are providing elder care, for example, to family members. So that's one major change, major shift that we have seen recently, and people have been successful in finding part-time or full-time positions working from home if that is their choice. That's been a major change within the last year or so.
So for those that are going into a job search to begin this year or are continuing their job search, especially particularly women that would be served by the Women to Work program, what are some common misconceptions that often blur the successful onset of that job search for people across the board?
Well, that's a very good question, and that is one area that we cover very specifically in the group sessions that we conduct. And one misconception is that women also often find that they are, quote, too old to find a job, unquote. And that is not necessarily the case. Employers look for people with good skills. And if people's skills match the job description, then employers are very eager, in fact, to meet with women, even though they may not have worked very recently. So that is an area that needs to be clarified. And often, it's no secret, occasionally an employer will even say to me, for example, off the record, do you have anyone who's not too young? So I always like to share that with the women that I see. And obviously the emphasis is on skills that women have become accustomed to and feel confident about.
So we're joined by Judy Richmond. She is an employment specialist and the Women to Work coordinator at JVS Human Services with us on the Megacast. And Judy, we're in a very different job market now than we were 2 years ago, that we've really ever been in the past decade or past decades. With the job market being as competitive as it is, with employers really in some ways struggling to find employees, are there some factors, and if so, what are those factors that are not nearly as important in today's job market as they had been in the past?
Well, certain things have not changed drastically. And as I've already mentioned, if someone has skills, background, education that matches an employer's needs, then that is what we emphasize. And people need to present themselves with that in mind. So that still makes a difference in terms of people being offered various kinds of positions.
And so then in terms of job descriptions, those are often something that can turn people away from applying to certain jobs. They either see a job description and the description is so specific that they don't believe they have the skills to fulfill that position, or there are such vast requirements that are beyond the experience that someone has that they say, well, I don't have nearly that kind of experience. I don't have nearly that kind of extensive skill set in that certain area. I probably shouldn't apply to that job. Where does that kind of mindset apply, or what should people be considering if they see a situation like that in a job description, to decide between applying for that job that maybe is a little bit beyond their skill set but would be a nice challenge versus a job that they are very much not qualified for and probably won't even get a response?
Another good question. Thank you for that. And our advice typically is, when you look at a job description, of course, the closer the better to your background and your skills. However, if you mostly match that job description, using, of course, your own good judgment, if you mostly match and it seems to be worthwhile, then we encourage people to apply. And sometimes the results are very positive, even unexpectedly. Someone may apply for a job and be told that there's another position within that company or that corporation that might be a better and a closer fit. So that sometimes happens, and we're very pleased that it does. The other thing is, often employers are willing to train people if they have some basic computer knowledge, for example. And often that is important as much as possible. It's helpful for people to have at least some basic computer skills.
We're joined by Judy Richmond. She's an employment specialist and the Women to Work coordinator at JVS Human Services, joining us today on the Megacast. Judy, a lot of people that are in the Women to Work program and others in general in the workforce, their goals currently are to completely change their career path. First off, if somebody is considering a change in their career, either whether that be a shift in direction in their current career field or a different career field altogether, what are some considerations that they should be taking into account before they make that decision, and certainly before they start making moves in that direction?
Well, a couple of things come to mind. One of the things that we offer at JVS for people who are undecided but know that they want to go in a new direction, we do offer some assessment and some evaluation, and that's included in the Women to Work program. And it helps people feel confident about going in a new direction. And of course, they would need to adjust their resume so that their skills are emphasized. And that can make a big difference, even if someone is going into a field that is new to them.
We're joined by Judy Richmond, employment specialist and Women to Work coordinator at JVS Human Services, joining us today on the Megacast. They will begin a 4-week course that begins January 6th. That is a couple of days from now, this week on Thursday, with the course proper beginning January 11th. Classes are 9 to noon, Tuesday and Thursday, for 8 sessions. And of course, the Women to Work program is something that's been ran for about 40 years plus with JVS Human Services here in the metro area. And so, Judy, if women in our audience are interested in some of the services that are provided and the assistances that are provided through the Women to Work program, how can they go about getting that help?
Okay, well, let me back up a minute or so and just mention that those dates are tentative right now. And so we may be looking more toward the spring, and time does fly. So anyone interested in the program at any time is welcome to call me directly. It's Judy Richmond, 248-233-4232. I'm always pleased to meet with people individually, even if there is somewhat of a wait time before the next Women to Work program takes place.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Judy, for joining us on today's edition of the Megacast. Before we let you go, a couple more minutes we have before we'll need to say goodbye. Is there anything else that would be important for our audience to know about the Women to Work program or any other services that are currently being provided or will soon be provided through JVS Human Services that may be of interest?
Well, that's another good question. And we do offer computer training, so that helps people, Women to Work and others, of course, to upgrade and update their computer skills. Often in the Women to Work program, we do cover such facets of the job search like resume writing, interviewing, stress management, social media, LinkedIn, the gig economy, and many other areas as well to assist people as fully as possible.
Judy, appreciate your time and your information on the Women to Work program and the job market here in the state of Michigan.
Thanks very much again for inviting me.
And again, if you'd like to get in contact with Judy and get involved in the Women to Work program over there, you can contact her by phone directly, 248-233-4232. Again, that phone number, 248-233-4232, or by sending an email to jrichmond@jvshumanservices.org. We're going to take a break. On the other side of the break, we'll be joined by the Executive Director of Share Detroit, Janette Phillips, to talk about her organization's continued work supporting and raising awareness as well as fundraising for many different charities and nonprofits here in the Metro Detroit area. That's coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
we work together to protect water resources for everyone.
most of the pollution entering our rivers is carried by rainwater that runs off roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
a rain garden helps catch stormwater runoff.
Rain gardens and their plants help dirty runoff soak into the ground.
You can do your part to help keep our water clean.
Learn about rain gardens and native plants.
So consider a rain garden in your home landscaping.
Catch the runoff with a rain garden.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
I couldn't breathe at all. There was lots of talk about putting me on a ventilator. I thought I was gonna die. I was 39 weeks pregnant and had a scheduled C-section. During that time, I got COVID and was hospitalized for a month. I had a blood clot in my lungs. It caused me to go into right-sided heart failure. I was really scared. I kept texting my husband and my mom, telling them how scared I was, and I was worried that he was gonna grow up without a mom. And then I was worried if, when I did get home, that he wouldn't know who I was. You know, being 27 and a mom and a wife and having that all almost taken away from me. It's scary, and if a vaccine can prevent that from happening, why not? Get your vaccine. I don't want this to happen to anybody else.
A message from the staff of Michigan's Crime Victim Compensation Program.
Anyone can be a victim of crime
and suffer lasting trauma, physically, emotionally, and financially.
But you are not alone.
If you're struggling financially due to a crime,
we're here
for you.
Find out if you qualify for crime victim compensation.
Call 877-251-7373 or visit michigan.gov/crime-victim.
A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Victim Services.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
You see certain things get reincarnated in your children. My daughter is very much inspired by my wife's artistic pursuits. So my daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, is being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanting to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you did. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more information about our show and everywhere that we broadcast, and find us on demand on our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Joining us once again, we're pleased to be joined by the Executive Director of Share Detroit, Janette Phillips, back with us on the Megacast. Janette, thank you for being with us again.
Hi, Tyler. Thank you so much for inviting me back.
Appreciate having you on. So we had you on. We had many different charities that are supported by Share Detroit on our show as we led up to Giving Tuesday and throughout the holiday season. We're in a new year now. And for those that haven't tuned in before to when we've spoken to you or to many of those charities and nonprofits that are supported by your organization, tell us a little bit about Share Detroit.
Okay, thanks. Share Detroit is a website. The link is sharedetroit.org. And what we're doing is aggregating and consolidating. We have 260 nonprofits now on the website. But what we're doing is bringing all these nonprofits together to allow the community to find them and help them do good by volunteering, making cash donations or donations of Amazon wish list items they might have, and finding a little more about the nonprofit and attending their events. So it's really an important way for the community to find nonprofits that might speak to their values and their goals, personal goals.
So in terms of the ways that Share Detroit helps these charities and nonprofits, certainly recognition, certainly information and word of mouth, in this case on the web, is helping to drive traffic toward these organizations and giving people another outlet to find them. But why is something like Share Detroit so important to these kinds of organizations that we have here in Metro Detroit?
So yeah, it's really important to the nonprofits because they become a part of a larger cause, if you will. You know, they're doing their work. Often, a lot of our nonprofits are very small, and you know, you just don't find them on TV commercials, or they don't pay for ads that pop up in your Facebook feed or whatever. They're small. They have their own loyal followers, but no one else can find them. So by being on ShareDetroit.org, a community member can search by a cause. So if it's food insecurity or people with disabilities or veterans, they can click on the cause and find nonprofits that they never knew existed, oftentimes right in their own backyard or, you know, not too far away. So the value to the nonprofit is being seen more easily by more people. And obviously being on your Megacast here helps us get the word out to viewers and listeners to visit and find some of these nonprofits and learn more about them.
And of course, you can do that at sharedetroit.org, which is the website for Share Detroit, which is helping to provide a conduit to many different charities and nonprofits that launched, and it itself launched in the spring of last year in order to help them drive traffic and raise awareness for these organizations that are doing great work in our community and for people that want to get involved in that great work as well. And so we're joined by their Executive Director at Share Detroit, Janette Phillips, on the program today. And so, as we mentioned, it's local charities and nonprofits here in the Metro Detroit area. There's so many great different charities and nonprofits that are both localized and nationally with chapters all throughout the state of Michigan. Why the focus from Share Detroit specifically on those in a localized area?
Well, because the founders of Share Detroit are local, grew up here. We're all Detroit based, Southeast Michigan based. And it's important for us to make sure that our community is giving back to our community. I mean, it's also, great to donate to national organizations that, do good in the world, do so much good. But again, we need to support ourselves, right? We need to help our local community. And that's our passion, is to elevate 260 nonprofits. Hopefully the next time I talk to you, we'll have maybe over 300. We're inching there. But elevate them to be seen and supported, so they can continue to do their important good work in our community. The work they do stays right here, which we think is critical.
We're joined by Janette Phillips. She is the Executive Director of Share Detroit. Joining us on the Megacast, you can learn more information about Share Detroit and find their 260 charities and nonprofits that are listed on their website by visiting their website at sharedetroit.org. And so, Janette, as you mentioned, there are now 260 charities and nonprofits that are listed through Share Detroit's website at sharedetroit.com. The last time sharedetroit.org, my apologize. At sharedetroit.org. The last time we had you on, there were about 240. Earlier on, just before we started our weekly Share Detroit interviews leading up to Giving Tuesday, there was just a little bit over 200. So as you said, it's growing. It's growing very quickly over time. The number of different charities and nonprofits you have listed on your website. Can you tell us a little bit, since we've last spoken to you around the time there were about 240, what are some of the new charities and nonprofits that are now listed on the website, for example, that weren't there just a few months ago?
So we have the ARC. The ARC of Michigan is the ARC of Michigan and the ARC of Detroit. Both are listed, and you caught me off guard. I should have been more prepared. But we have the Detroit Creativity Project, which is helping young people in Detroit find their creativity in improv and some acting work. Children's Hope, which is the Child Abuse Prevention Council for Wayne County, outside, not Detroit, but the other parts of Wayne County, just to name a few. And we have, if it's okay, I'd like to say that we always have another 40 or 50 in the bubble. We call it the bubble, trying to get their pages ready to be published. So, we're busy getting it all worked out.
And so, as you mentioned, those other 40 or 50 or so charities and nonprofits that are in your quote-unquote bubble and not yet published on sharedetroit.org, what are some of the steps that they have to take to be listed on your website? And then what are some steps that are taken by Share Detroit specifically in order to vet these different organizations before they're listing them among the other charities and nonprofits that are already there?
Yeah, so what they have to do, each nonprofit on our website has a landing page. So you can click on their name or search for someone, and inside the landing page is kind of foundational information, who their leader is, typically an executive director, what their mailing address is, we have a link to their website to enable visitors to really get to know the nonprofit. Phone number, email address, the basic info, and then information, what we do, what they do, what they consider to be their interesting information. And then we have 4 pillars. So they have to have at least 2 of the 4 pillars, which are the donation button, an Amazon wish list, volunteering, and then events. So they have to, take a little bit of time and think about how they want to portray themselves on our page. Think about their volunteer opportunities and make sure that they're listed in a way that's compelling to visitors to say, oh, wow, I want to help them. And then any events that are coming up, obviously, they need to just put that information up. What we do on our side is vet them to make sure they are truly a 501c3 nonprofit. They've been around for at least 1 year, been official for at least a year, have a website, because it's really important. They have to have more than just a Facebook website. They have to have a website. because it's important for the community to be able to go in and kind of see their work on their own website. And, a few other little rules of engagement that, are kind of technical, but that's pretty much it. We try not to, what's the word I want? We try not to discriminate on anything. So you can find causes on both ends of the spectrum, depending. We just want everyone to have that visibility. So that's what we do.
We're joined by Janette Phillips. She is the Executive Director of Share Detroit. You can learn more information about all 260 and counting of their charities and nonprofits listed on their website at sharedetroit.org. And so there's been a number of different struggles for charities and for nonprofits, similar to businesses and different from businesses over the course of the pandemic. But one thing that's really interesting about your website at sharedetroit.org is not only does it list these different charities and nonprofits so people can learn more information and can donate and can provide items to them, it also provides volunteer opportunities listed on your website as well. And as we've gone through the pandemic and we've continued through it, and we're going through another surge right now with both Delta and Omicron variants here in the state of Michigan, on top of the staffing issues that businesses are having and some of these nonprofits that do have employees are having, how much more important of recent times has volunteering for these organizations been to these organizations?
Yeah, it's been really important because, again, it's just so important to keep getting their work done, and so many are stepping into the breach of the needs of the community because of COVID. So, you can imagine people have so many needs. People lose their jobs. They can't pay their rent. Just getting food at anywhere is difficult. So finding volunteers to help these nonprofits is critical. A lot of the volunteer opportunities are remote, so people can help in the background, helping them plan a future event in the spring or summer that will be a big fundraising event. There's a ton of planning that goes into fundraising events, writing grants, applying to foundations to receive money to support their cause. You don't have to be there to do that. You have to be a good writer and understand kind of what the mission is so you can tell that story in a grant. I'm looking at one right now on our website. They mittens for children. They want people who like to knit to make mittens. I mean, it's freezing outside this week, and so that organization is all about finding mittens, hat, blankets, coats, warm things for people in the city who don't have it. Sometimes the homeless people, and others just children who don't have adequate warm clothing or bedding. That's what they do. So there's tons of ways to volunteer right now from the comfort of your own home. And someday we'll be able to get back out there, right? And do good closer to the action. But we have about 190 volunteer opportunities right now on the website that people can scroll through.
And so, Janette, on the front of other struggles that these organizations have had over the course of the pandemic, they've changed, they've varied over the course of the last almost 2 years. Not at this point that we have been dealing with COVID-19, but as of recent times, as we have opened things back up and then now have more concerns growing as the Delta variant and certainly the Omicron variant continue to spread very rapidly throughout Michigan and around the U.S. and the world. What are some current concerns or issues that our charities and nonprofits are facing that donations, volunteer time, items from Amazon wish lists and others of the such that can be provided through your website at sharedetroit.org? How important does that become now because of those struggles as well?
Yeah, thanks. I think, it's critically important for people to give if they can give. We just went through a really, starting at Giving Tuesday, which is always the Tuesday after Thanksgiving, through the holiday season and tax season. There's a big drive for nonprofits to receive cash donations. And I would encourage anyone listening, to make a cash donation. People, they need, funding is a number one priority for virtually every nonprofit. But beyond that, through the holiday season, people are, we're more focused on our families, on our friends, more close to the action, shopping, cooking, those sorts of things. So it's January now, maybe another week of decompression and trying to figure out what's happening with COVID. And a lot of people have been sick. I mean, I can tell you in my family and my friends, wow, I'm just happy it hasn't hit me yet. But soon, I hope, maybe a week or so, sometime in January, people will say, okay, I need to do something. I can't just sit in my house all day. What can I do? And again, they can do things from their home, but for a greater cause, for a more important mission than just, cleaning their house or shoveling the snow. So I would just really encourage people to visit our website, sharedetroit.org, take a look around, see if there's something you can do. Maybe there's something on a wish list you want to help. Nonprofits that support children and babies always need diapers, need supplies for babies, and that that touches so many people's hearts. Most people have a soft spot for children and babies. So whatever it is that means to you, or animals, right? There are a lot of animals who are left outside all winter long, and nonprofits are out there trying to keep them warm, giving them straw and hay, and talking to their owners. And there's so many ways to help. So take another breath, take a week, and visit our website and see what you can do.
You can visit their website at sharedetroit.org and learn more about the 260 and counting charities and nonprofits that are supported by Share Detroit. Janette, thank you for being with us today. Anything else that would be important for our audience to consider, or information that they should keep in mind going forward?
Thanks. I want to thank you, Tyler, for the time. And I just would love people to visit sharedetroit.org and then let their friends and family or work colleagues know. We also have group opportunities. So if someone's watching and they work with a group that likes to do a volunteer opportunity, that usually is more in person in the spring or summer, we have a woman on staff, a volunteer specialist, who will help craft and kind of handhold the organization with the nonprofit that they might want to support. So whatever they need, let me know, track us down. We're here to help.
Well, Janette, thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks, Tyler. Happy New Year.
You as well. You can learn more information about Share Detroit, again, by visiting their website at sharedetroit.org, where you can, if you are with a charity or nonprofit, can look into information about applying to be listed on the website, or if you are looking to give either your money, your time, or items to these organizations, you can visit their website, sharedetroit.org, and learn more about all these different charities and nonprofits here in the local area, as well as find out more about ways that you can help support causes and issues that are close to your heart as well. We're going to take a quick break on your radio homes for the Megacast, 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake and 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. And then the second hour of the show, we'll kick it off by speaking to Rick Bloom, a financial advisor over at Bloom Advisors. And then at 11:20, we'll be joined by MC Rawthorne, one of the commissioners with the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission here in Michigan. That'll be coming up next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
Whether you're the city,
the county,
or the Huron River Watershed Council,
as partners working together to protect our water resources, we agree.
Pet waste is a source of harmful bacteria in the Huron River.
When it's left on the ground, it can wash into the storm drains.
These lead directly to our streams. No filters, no treatment.
Here's one thing we know that can help keep our water clean.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
Pick up pet waste and trash it.
So pick up pet waste and trash it.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Who is struggling right now?
I am.
My son is.
Many are struggling with anxiety, depression, and substance use. Before it becomes a crisis, reach out to MyCal, the Michigan Crisis and Access Line, for free confidential support 24/7. Available in the Upper Peninsula and Oakland County. Just call or text 1-844-44-MyCal or chat online at michigan.gov/MyCal. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Motorcyclists are hard to see. To keep everyone safer, it's important to always look for them and know where most crashes occur. 84% of motorcycle and vehicle crashes happen on streets, not highways. And most crashes with motorcyclists occur when vehicle drivers are turning left. So before turning, especially to the left, make sure you look for motorcyclists. Then look again. It could save a life.
To Sofia and Gabriel. Even though these old knees can't follow on your adventure to the forest today, these flowers represent my love. These stitches and threads join us together. And wherever you see a flower, a bird, a beautiful tree, know that my love is with you.
Make the forest part of your story at a park near you. Find one at discovertheforest.org.
72.7% of high school students get less than the recommended 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night. This can cause pain, obesity, and can very negatively affect your mental health. When you have a consistent 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, you get sick less often, lose more weight, and have better relationships with those around you. For more information about the dangers of sleep deprivation, go to sleepfoundation.org. This message is brought to you by the WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
Can I ask you a question? Why did you get your kids vaccinated?
It was hard for them to social distance, to be isolated from their friends.
I want them to get back to school and sports games. So as a pediatrician, I recommend the vaccine to everyone I know.
The boys lost a former teammate and classmate who was only 20 years old. It's been a devastating year.
We want to get back to normalcy. Our daughter is really looking forward to being with her friends, being a kid.
It's the Great Lakes water. And so what people do ends up in our waterways.
Flushable wipes are just evil. They should be thrown away. They're impossible to destroy, and they can cause significant problems.
One of the main things when you're cooking is to not dump fats, oils, and greases down your drains.
They stick to the sides of pipes. They stick to everything they come in contact with. Don't put it down the sink.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe. You can learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast all throughout the state of Michigan by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. There we have links to every one of our partnering television and radio stations here in the Oakland County area that are community television and radio stations, as well as web outlets that broadcast throughout the state of Michigan, like civiccentertv.com and My Michigan TV. Joining us now is Rick Bloom. He is a financial advisor with Bloom Advisors with us on the Megacast. Rick, thank you for being with us again.
Well, thanks so much for having me, and a happy, healthy new year to you and all your listeners.
Yes, you as well, Rick, and your entire team over there at Bloom Advisors. And so near the end of last year, we talked to you about ways that people should be preparing their finances for the new year, or ways that they should be preparing to wrap up their finances from 2021 as they prepare for taxes and for other things that are coming up in the year ahead of them as well. But going into 2022, into a new year, what should people be doing financially at the beginning of the year to set them up both best financially for the year ahead and for their future as well?
You know, it's so important that people take control of their personal finances because we live in an ever-changing world. I believe there's like 5 different areas that people need to take into consideration. And this is a great time of year to do it, especially winter here in Michigan. One is you need to look at your estate planning needs. When's the last time you've had your estate plan up to date? If you haven't done an estate plan, you need to make sure that you do it. And one thing that surprised a lot of people on estate planning, there's a lot you can do for free. You don't necessarily have to have a lawyer, but it's important that we take care of our estate planning needs. And it's important to remember, estate planning is just not upon death. It also deals with how to handle a family emergency. The second area I think everyone needs to look at is their tax situation. Some people think about taxes only on April 15th, and that's a mistake. You need to have an overall game plan and look at your tax situation. 3, I believe it's important to look at risk management. A lot of people like to call it insurance. I think the area is risk management. Are you properly covered with different risks? When's the last time you shopped around your automobile insurance, shopped around your homeowner's insurance, asked for discounts? So I think it's a good time to look at the whole area of risk management. What type of insurance policies you may need? Do you have the right type of insurance? 4, I think it's important to look at debt. Debt management is so important today. People get in such trouble because debt is so easy to get into. You have to be efficient with debt, and you have to really know what you have, because when it comes time to pay it off, what you pay off first may make a difference. And lastly, I think it's important this time of year to relook at your investment strategies. You know, those of you who have 401ks may not have looked at it in a year. You need to look at how your funds have done. Do you have the right strategy? And I know that a lot of this is, you know, takes a lot of time. But the reality is, as adults, we have to look at our personal financial affairs. We can't put them in automatic pilot because it doesn't work that way. You know, when you talk about your investments, I mean, people think that you just put in an investment, you forget about it. But an investment is like a garden. You could have the best garden in the world, but if you don't tend to take care of it, down the road it doesn't look so good. It's the same thing with portfolios. So those are the 5 areas I think that everyone needs to focus on. And I don't care what shape you're in financially, you can always make tomorrow better than it is today.
We're joined by Rick Bloom. He is the financial advisor over at Bloom Advisors, joining us on the Megacast. And he also writes a weekly, quote-unquote, Money Matters column with Hometown Life newspapers. You can learn more information and read those articles at hometownlife.com. And Rick, on one of those articles that you recently wrote on hometownlife.com, you discussed the differences between traditional 401ks and Roth 401ks. And as you talk about people keeping up with their investments or beginning to refocus their investment strategy for 2022, can you tell us a little bit about the key differences between those 2 kinds of 401k investment plans, as well as who can benefit from each?
Let me first say, if you have a 401k plan at work, you almost slam dunk should take advantage of it. These are great ways to save for retirement. And as far as I'm concerned, you can't save too much for retirement, because retirement is a brand new concept in the history of mankind. So when you look at the difference between a traditional 401k and Roth 401k, it deals with taxes mostly. In a traditional 401k, you are putting into the plan pre-tax money. So it's money you've never been taxed on. The money grows tax deferred within a 401k. And then when you start withdrawing it after 59 and a half, that's when you pay the taxes on the money. So whatever comes out of a traditional 401k is taxed at your ordinary income bracket. In addition, when you turn 72, you must begin taking minimum required distributions. It's a formula by law. In a Roth IRA, you're putting in post-tax money, money that you've already paid taxes on. However, the benefit is that when the money's withdrawn from the Roth 401k, it's withdrawn tax-free. So you never pay tax on that money. In addition, in a Roth 401k, you can roll the money over into a Roth IRA, and then you're not subject to the minimum required distributions at age 72. You can let that money grow tax-free as long as you choose. In fact, you never have to take a distribution. And if you pass away and you still owned a Roth IRA, then your beneficiaries can take that money out income tax-free. Particularly the younger you are, the longer you can let money grow. Roth 401ks are a slam dunk. So I always tell recent graduates that are just starting their career, do the Roth 401k. It may cost you a little more in taxes today, but down the road, it'll be significant tax savings.
We're joined by Rick Bloom. He's the financial advisor with Bloom Advisors, and you can learn more information about the difference between a traditional 401k and a Roth IRA from Rick in his Money Matters column at hometownlife.com. And so Monday, the Dow on the stock market, the Dow finished up by 0.7% or nearly 250 points, logging a new record high on the first trading day of 2022. Similarly, the S&P 500, the broadest measure of Wall Street, that closed to a record of being up 0.6%. For those who are not taking part in trading stocks, what advice do you have for beginners who feel like they're either left out or they're just not familiar with it, but they're interested and they want to get involved before they take those steps and start investing?
You know, a lot of people think it takes a lot of money to invest. It doesn't. You could start with $10. Today, companies like Fidelity and Schwab offer mutual funds that you can invest in, or even individual stocks, without commissions for low minimum. So really, in today's world, there's no excuse not to invest money. The reality, if you want your money to grow, the stock market's a great place for it. And I think it's important to learn all you can. Now, what I always tell people, the stock market is not gambling. Most people want to invest in what's hot. That's not the way you invest. The way, whether you're sophisticated or not, you should invest based upon your goals and objectives. What are you saving for? If you're saving for retirement that's 20, 30 years down the road, you belong in the stock market. If you're saving for a new house that you want to buy in June, you don't belong in the stock market. So it's goals and objectives that really dictate how you invest your money. And the second thing people have to realize is risk. Now, everyone thinks the stock market is risky. But let me tell you this, Tyler, there's no investment anyone can tell me that doesn't have risk. There's no such thing as risk-free investing. It doesn't exist. People think if you leave your money in the bank, they think it's risk-free, but it's not. And the reason is when you look at the interest and that you're paying taxes on it, that money doesn't keep up with the increased cost of living. So I think for new investors, what they need to do, they need to focus on what they're trying to accomplish, and that is that time frame. And then to start slowly. Again, companies like Fidelity and Schwab now offer zero minimum investments with zero commissions. So people can start with $10, $20 just to get their feet wet. And I'll tell you about investing. It's the only hobby I know of, Tyler, that you can actually make money as opposed to costing you money.
We're joined by Rick Bloom, a financial advisor at Bloom Advisors, with us on the Megacast. You can learn more about all things on the financial front and get many of his very helpful tips that we get here when he comes on our show occasionally here on the Megacast by reading his Money Matters column at hometownlife.com. Again, hometownlife.com, where he writes a Money Matters column in the Hometown Life newspapers. And so it's tough at this moment in time to tune into pretty much any cable news or really any cable television channel and not end up being bombarded with ads for life insurance. So on that front, who should be considering getting life insurance? Who is that for? Who's a candidate to purchase it? And what should they be considering if they are a candidate for life insurance before they make a purchase?
First of all, people should realize life insurance is not an investment. A lot of the agents like to sell it as an investment, but it's not. I never think it's a good idea that I got to pass on to collect on something. Life insurance is a matter of risk. If you ask yourself, if I pass away, does anyone lose out financially? If no one loses out financially, you don't need life insurance. On the other hand, if your death is going to cause financial distress, then life insurance is one way of handling that. And there are many different types of life insurance policies. For the great majority of people, I recommend term insurance. It is the least expensive and it allows you to shop around. So term insurance, Tyler, is like you could buy $100,000 for 30 years. And so you pay your premium, you have coverage for 30 years. And I think for most people, that's the type of insurance they need to look at. And what you're trying to do is replace your income if something happens to you. So if you're a young family and you're the working spouse and you have minor children, well, you need life insurance to make sure those children and the spouse can maintain their lifestyle after you pass. And by buying term insurance, it is a fraction of the cost of all the other types of insurance they try to sell you. Because one thing people have to realize, the reason why life insurance is sold so much is because of the commissions. Commissions are huge. I'm a big believer of in commission-free investing, that people should be aware of their costs. And they should be aware of costs in life insurance as well. And with term insurance, it's easy to shop around and get competitive bids. Everyone thinks that one insurance company is the same. They're not. They have different price structures, and by shopping around, people can be more efficient. And this is a great time of year to relook at your life insurance coverage to make sure you have the right type of life insurance. And if you don't need it, look at canceling it. Why pay for something you don't need?
And so, Rick, on another form of media on the radio, you hear a lot of ads also about timeshares, mostly for getting out of a timeshare and the struggles that come along with that. How do so many people end up falling into, for lack of better terms, the trap of those timeshares? And then on top of that, should anyone ever do that? And if they do and they realize that they've made a mistake, how do they go about getting out of it?
Well, first of all, the reason why so many people buy timeshares, because they sell them a lot of times in vacation locations. So you're on vacation, you're in Cancun, you're in Miami. When you're on vacation, you naturally let your guard down. And what they do is they invite you to some event, free dinner, free show, this or that. And people feel obligated. They get you in a room and they have some very high pressure salespeople. I think the great majority of people ought to avoid timeshares. They don't seem to make sense. They're expensive. What people don't realize is that year after year, you still have to pay an annual maintenance fee, which can be very expensive, and that maintenance fee can go up. The problem is you sign a contract, so once you're in a timeshare, it's difficult to get out of it. There are now a variety of companies that will take that burden away from you. However, you're not going to get the money you paid for your timeshare. And if you were thinking about buying a timeshare, the best way to buy it is on the used market, because people are selling it for a fraction on the dollar. But I would tell most people they ought to avoid it. It sounds nice. Oh, you get to go on vacation all the time. But the reality is a little different. And the other thing is, never buy anything expensive when you're on vacation, because you naturally have your guard down, and that's when people take advantage of you.
Well, Rick, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Any lasting advice for people as we are now into the new year on the financial front?
I would tell everyone that the new year gives us an opportunity of a fresh start on our finances, and we ought to take advantage of it. No matter what financial shape you're in, you can improve yourself by being involved in the process. And I think that one of the most important things is for people to get a hold of their expenses, to put paper to pencil and to figure out what it costs you to live a month. Go through your expenses, write them down. By writing them down, you could see them for the first time, and then you can be more efficient. But no matter what financial shape you're in, you can make significant improvements by being involved in the process.
Rick, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Again, you can get more advice from Rick on the financial front in his Money Matters column at hometownlife.com. We're going to take a break. On the other side, we'll talk about the recent passage of redistricting maps here in the state of Michigan with one of the commissioners from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. MC Rothhorn joins us next. You're watching and listening to the Megacast.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Neighborhood storm drains carry water directly to local creeks and streams. No filters, no treatment.
Storm drains also help reduce street flooding when it rains.
So clearing storm drains and the areas nearby of trash and leaves helps keep them for rain only.
It is easy to do your part by adopting a storm drain.
Find a storm drain, check it, and clear it every month.
So keep storm drains for rain only.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
If you are struggling to afford your internet bills during the pandemic, there's a temporary government program that may be able to help. It's called the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it provides up to a $50 monthly discount on your broadband bill to qualifying households. Find more information about the program, including if you qualify and how to enroll, at fcc.gov/broadbandbenefit, or call toll-free at 833-511-0311.
A public service announcement from 89.3 Lakes FM.
We as Michiganders feel connected to this resource in a way that I think is really powerful.
Conservation starts with a caring, committed community.
For me, it's peaceful to have a relationship with the river.
Every single one of us has a role to make sure that those waterways stay safe and healthy, being careful about what goes down the storm drain.
Just even eliminating some of your single-use plastic makes a difference.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
Did you know that nearly 3.31 million Americans don't get their annual checkup? Going to the doctor regularly is extremely important and is a crucial factor in maintaining good health. Make sure you are visiting your local doctor often and telling them about any health concerns you have. For more information, contact your local healthcare provider. This message is brought to you by WBHS Digital Media Arts Program and 89.3 Lakes FM.
People are getting out to walk and bike in higher numbers. More vulnerable road users and higher speed traffic can be a dangerous combination. Crash severity has increased, so if you're driving, be sure to slow down and look for people. There's no need to speed. If you're biking, ride with traffic. If you're walking, avoid stepping into the road if possible. If you have to walk in the street, walk facing traffic. Learn more at walkbikedrivesafe.org.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Parents do a lot of worrying. Get your kids caught up on childhood vaccines to protect them from these 14 preventable diseases, and you'll have 14 fewer things to worry about. Vaccines are safe and effective and save lives. So let's get caught up on vaccines and worry about something else. Get the facts at ivaccinate.org.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Kieft. You can learn more information and find all of our individual interviews as well as our full episodes of the show that broadcast live from 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday of each week by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. Well, last week, Tuesday, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission approved new state legislative districts for both the State House, the State Senate, as well as federally. And joining us now to talk about that, as well as what happens now going forward with the redistricting here in Michigan, is one of the commissioners from the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. MC Rawthorne is back with us once again on the Megacast. Commissioner, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome, Tyler. Nice to be here.
Appreciate having you on. And so these maps were approved last week, Tuesday. And so the process of the commission deciding on maps that they were going to push forward into the redistricting process has been completed, but it took an extensive amount of work from the commission. It took a lot of negotiation and renegotiation and a lot of waiting for information as well. From the outside looking in, that seems like it was delayed and it was taking a very long time. From somebody that was involved in the process, just how extensively were these redistricting maps discussed by members of the commission?
There are hundreds of hours of video and live stream that will validate that we talked about it, discussed it. We talked about how we were going to talk about it. We talked about how we were going to vote about it. As you mentioned, right, there were delays. We wrestled with making sure that this legal process, driven by citizens who are commissioners like myself, but who are also listening to more citizens about what these legislative districts should look like, that was also part of this legal process. It was so there was an understanding in August that we were going to probably not wait, but we were going to get the delayed census data, and that was going to push back our deadline till the end of the year, and we met that deadline. Even though it wasn't the constitutional deadline, it was the one that allowed citizens to give their input and citizens like us on the commission to actually understand all the input that we needed as first-timers drawing these maps.
And that was one of the benefits of the passage of this law by the population in 2018 in order to create the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, is to have that extensive public input period and to have members of the public ultimately deciding on these legislative maps rather than those that are currently in office, particularly those in the party of majority power. We're joined by MC Rothorn. He is one of the commissioners of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And after the examples of maps that would be discussed were released, and even after the passage of these maps last week, Tuesday, there's been a lot of criticism from both Republicans and Democrats, as was to be expected, but particularly from Detroiters who argue that majority black congressional and Senate districts have either been severely affected or eliminated by the proposed maps and by the maps that were passed, both on the front of the inevitable criticism that was going to come with these decisions, but also the considerations of these majority-minority districts. What was discussed at the commission level about maintaining majority-minority districts or maintaining the fairness of these districts in order to not shut out minority populations, particularly in major areas of the state of Michigan, like major cities such as Detroit?
Again, the question, what was discussed, that's all in the tapes. It's live, it's transparent. There was nothing that wasn't discussed. That was, everything was live broadcast. Everything was live streamed and recorded. So that's the basic question or answer to your question. And I believe that, that was part of the struggle that we had when we made the decision. Like we did hear from people that said, like, change the House maps in particular, the congressional and the Senate. There were those who, were not happy with them, but in large numbers, we heard about our House maps, and we had a real struggle, I think, to make sure that we as a government body were going to respect the people, and especially people of color, who are telling us to change these maps. It was not an easy decision. We did the best we can with what the numbers we had and the time that we have. And I think that's what all people do in their lives, as normal citizens. Every day we make hard decisions and we do the best we can with what we got.
There was another point of controversy recently about a closed session that was held with the commission and its attorneys. And so what was the reasoning from a commissioner standpoint, from the discussions that you and your fellow commissioners had with your attorneys? What was the rationale going into that closed session to hold a closed session, given that the law that put this commission in place was adamant about having the majority or the vast majority of these conversations about redistricting being in public?
So I'll reiterate that we are citizens, right? We're doing this all for the first time. And we, as a body of 13, did not all agree unanimously to go into this closed session. And as a body, the majority did, as our legal counsel, we did as our legal counsel advised us, which is to have a closed session to understand what it was in those two memos about voting rights, and now the Voting Rights Act and the history of racism in the state of Michigan. Those were the two documents, and that's why we went into the closed session, again, based on our legal counsel.
And so let's talk about that too. You mentioned the difficulties of this being a commission of citizens, of people that are not necessarily entirely familiar with governmental processes, with the Open Meetings Act even. What sort of training, when you were selected for this, was there any training that was undergone for these commissioners that would help them through these processes, or were you kind of just thrown into the situation that you had volunteered for and then were selected for and had to learn on the go?
So I think it's a combination of both. Like I'm sure for many of my colleagues, right, and for myself, like it did feel like we were thrown in, and of course we weren't thrown in. We were well prepared, frankly, and we had lots of experts who were helping us from the very first day of our orientation. And gosh, I believe in the Constitution, it said we were supposed to be convened before October. We were convened at the end of August, meaning the Secretary of State was our official secretary and still is our official secretary to the commission. And so they convened us with more time, right? So it's very fair to say that we were given an orientation, we were given training, we were given all the experts and the tools that we needed. And right, there were delays in some of the information, and it's like drinking from a fire hose when you're doing this for the first time. So I'll just offer that, yeah, I really want to encourage more citizens to do this, because I do think it's really an important part of our domestic democratic institutions. And I think it's something that every citizen can do. And yes, it's challenging.
And being one of the first people in the state of Michigan to be a part of this commission, the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, being that you did experience for lack of better terms, off the top of my head, trial by fire, that was this process and the difficulties that went into learning this on the go and doing this for the first time here in the state of Michigan. For those that may be interested in 10 years from now, on the next Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, what advice do you have for people that may be interested in doing that down the road to help them prepare for the process that they're going to have to go through, both so that they're ready to go if and when they are selected for this commission, and so that our future redistricting commissions have a smoother process than was maybe undergone this first time?
Gosh, I'll say, si se puede. Yes, we can. We are the ones we've been waiting for. You know, it's like, if not who, if not me, then who? And I think, right, each of us has this opportunity to vote, right? There are these civic duties that we have, which are sometimes we don't exercise, but we can vote. We can be on a jury, right? And we can be on the Citizens Redistricting Commission in Michigan. And I think that what's also important I would offer is consider signing up, because we in Michigan in 2018, we were the people who resoundingly defeated these interests, these powerful interests, the professionals who didn't want to see government by the people. They want to do it for the people, those professionals, but I don't think they want it by the people. It threatens the power structure. And I think if we don't participate, if we don't sign up, and if we don't think we can, right, then they win. So I'll just offer that, yes, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We can do it. It's important to figure it out. Sometimes it doesn't feel like there's a good answer, and you'll make the best answer. You'll do it, right? That's what we did, and I think we can be proud of it. Again, it's a messy process, and it was transparent. So everything was out there. It's not messy and sort of hidden behind closed doors. The fairness is right there in the video.
We're joined by MC Rawthorn. He's one of the commissioners on the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission that passed last week their legislative maps for the state House of Representatives, the state Senate, as well as our federal legislative districts here in the state of Michigan. You can learn more information about the entire process and view those in the archives of their meetings past and recent by visiting michigan.gov/MICRC. That's michigan.gov/MICRC, or which stands for Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. And so, MC, with the lawsuits that are being discussed as potentially coming up in reaction to the districts that were passed by the commission and that were discussed because of issues we already talked about, should those lawsuits be successful for those that are initiating them, what happens with the commission at that point if certain rulings are made that are not out of favor but are differing from the current maps? Does the commission then have to go back to work and continue with those processes?
That's a great question. I mean, we ourselves are in this process for the first time, right? This part of the legal process. And so we will comply with the law. We will be ready. But I suppose the answer to your question really is in the details that are given to us when the court decides.
We're joined by MC Rawthorn. He is one of the members of the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, joining us on the Megacast. And in additional news as well, the commission voted on December 16th to budget upwards $49,999 for a documentary to tell the story of the processes that were undertaken in this first-time process of a commission of citizens redistricting Michigan's legislative districts. It will be described as a lessons learned video. You were someone that had said you were in favor of this documentary and report. Why did you take favor to the idea of the commission having a documentary processed about what they undertook to draw these new maps?
More education for the citizens. Again, this is the first time. I want that, right, in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now, 30 years from now, the next redistricting cycles, there will be more citizens just like me and my 12 colleagues who will be doing this. And so to tell the story as fresh as possible, not 2 months from now, but right now, and not even 2 years from now, to tell that story and to as a whole body, right, as a whole commission, to tell that story is the other part that I think is so important. Like, we do operate as a body. We don't have 13 individual commissioners. We are one body. And when we separate, we are, of course, individuals, right? And I think that's an important thing that we need in democratic institutions that work as a body, right? That we subjugate our individual interests and work as a whole. And so it's the idea of capturing that and telling that story and what it takes. Some of those are the lessons that I learned.
Well, MC, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us to talk a little bit more about the processes that went into drawing these new legislative maps, as well as some of the reactions and controversy, so to speak, that is surrounding this first time set of decisions being made by a commission of independent citizens. We appreciate your time.
Thanks very much for having me.
Appreciate it. You can learn more information about the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, view their maps, view their past meetings as well as minutes, and find other information about the process, meeting notices, materials, drawing of maps, and so on by visiting michigan.gov/MICRC. That is michigan.gov/MICRC, which stands for the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Again, one more time, michigan.gov/MICRC. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. On the other side, we'll talk to an attorney who is helping to make sure that kids that are in abusive or neglective homes are being brought out of those situations and put in to a situation that's best not only for them but for their families going forward. Attorney Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins will join us next to wrap up this Tuesday edition of the Megacast.
We may come from different organizations,
but we work together to protect the Huron River for everyone.
Most of the pollution that goes into our rivers is carried by rainwater that flows off of roads, parking lots, and rooftops.
The leaves and bark of a single tree can retain a surprising amount of rainwater. Depending on its size and species, it could be 100 gallons or more.
It is estimated that an urban forest can reduce annual runoff by up to 7%.
Here's one thing that we know can help keep our water clean.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
Plant a tree.
There's one water, and it's ours to protect.
One of the things you can look for in your friends is a change in behavior.
These can be big changes, they can be small changes in mood, physical appearance.
They may be sleeping less or sleeping more, drinking more, or their eating patterns may be different.
One big change that can be pretty obvious is change in motivation. Do they no longer want to play basketball? Do they no longer want to play video games?
Now that we're spending more time online and in virtual settings, it's really important to pay attention to the language that your friend is using and the words they're using to communicate.
So when we text our friends, are they taking longer amounts of time to respond? Are they not responding at all? You don't have to be an expert to try to recognize these signs. The second that you feel it in your gut and that you're concerned, that's the second to have the conversation and open the door to what might be going on.
Whatever gets you talking.
Each year, nearly 700,000 children are victims of abuse and neglect in the U.S., with about 2,000 of these cases resulting in death. Joining us now is an attorney who is fighting to keep children out of abusive homes. Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins joins us on the Megacast. Teresa, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
So you are in the midst of starting a nonprofit law firm that will work to ensure that people who can't afford to litigate parental alienation cases, which are often expensive, are able to be represented by top lawyers. What was your motivation behind working to begin this nonprofit law firm?
So I wanted to be a lawyer since I was really young, and that motivation came from things that happened in my own household that were tragic, but it is the path that my soul chose. I know that now. And as a result, I went to law school, became a lawyer, and what became apparent to me is that we have a very broken family court system. And many, many children's voices are not heard in this process. And many people who cannot afford to have their children seen by professionals or have their cases evaluated by the appropriate people, like clinical forensic psychologists, private investigators, all of these people that come into play that are necessary parts of these litigations, most people can't even bat an eye at the expense of that. And that's a tragedy, because what happens is children get forgotten, they get pushed aside, and they get treated like they don't matter by the system that purports to be advocating for their best interests. So I decided a long time ago that I was going to do a nonprofit. I was going to form a nonprofit. And I recently had the opportunity to make that happen. And I'm very excited to be spearheading this.
So beginning the Justice Lawyer League, as you are calling it, it's aiming at helping kids that, as you said, in a normal situation, given the way that our system currently works, would not be properly represented in cases where they're being abused or where they're being neglected, and often that would lead them into either continuing to be exposed to that abuse or to be continuously neglected. But that also brings the question of how would these kids then be able to approach or know to approach or be able to then get the services of such a nonprofit law group in that situation? Because I would think for them to be able to come forward or someone to recognize that, that's also a really tough thing to navigate when it comes to abuse of a child or neglect. So how is that? How do you plan on bridging that gap?
You raise an excellent point. Oftentimes, the way that cases come to people like me is through one of their parents. My law firm also handles cases of CPS and defense against CPS, and we also prosecute CPS for failing to do their due diligence and take care of children. So in part, we have to address first, reaching out to people who are currently in crisis, who have children who aren't being heard. Next, we have to do a public campaign. We have to make people know about this, and we have to let children know too. The good thing about just talking with people like you is it gets the word out. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not only trying to start this nonprofit, I'm trying to bring awareness to this huge gaping hole in our system that basically treats children like they're second class and that their voices don't matter. And even when there is forensic evidence that proves that they're being abused and the court doesn't pay attention, there are going to be people that stand up and fight for them and make sure that this stops with everything that they have.
We're joined by Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins. She's an attorney and is fighting to get children out of abusive homes by beginning the Justice Lawyer League. And so you mentioned that often in these cases, they're brought to attention by a parent of the child, despite the child being in an abusive or in a situation of neglect. Does that imply then, and correct me if I'm wrong, that in these cases it's a concerned parent that finally does raise concerns about the other parent in a two-parent situation that may be causing harm to their child and want to get their child and maybe even themselves the help that they need?
Absolutely. That's one aspect of it. I will tell you, I've had grandparents come to me when their son or daughter have passed and they notice abuse or neglect in the situation. I've had parents come to me in CPS cases when CPS is the person is the entity that is causing a child harm. One case in particular, I had a child who got hooked on drugs and pregnant while in a foster care situation being withheld from her mother. So these are the types of situations that I'm talking about. It's not just child custody and parental alienation and abuse and neglect cases. It's any case where children are being harmed and the justice system is ignoring them. I am going to handle all aspects of those cases, and the Justice Lawyer League is going to band together and make sure that we have an impact across the nation in helping these kids get out of these situations or the remedy that they need in the situation that they're in.
So often these situations do turn into a custody battle, whether they're putting the child into the foster care system while they're deliberating the legitimacy of the ability of the parent or of the parents to raise the child, or if there's a battle between one parent or another to claim full custody due to abuse or neglect as a result of the actions of another parent. But these often come into become really complicated situations and really expensive situations too, particularly on the legal side, just to prove that a parent should have legitimate custody of their child, especially if they are, for lack of better terms, a good parent. Why is that the case? What causes that in our current system? What flaw in our current system or flaws causes this process to be, frankly, convoluted and creating a disadvantage for good parents and for keeping children with their parents and out of further situations where they could be neglected or abused or both?
In my experience in this state, because I've practiced law in other states as well, we have a huge problem in our judiciary. While we have legislation that says that we're supposed to have a dedicated family court, many counties don't have the resources to have a dedicated family court bench. We also have a system where judges are elected politicians. And instead of hiring the best and the brightest to be on the family court bench, we unfortunately have people that are elected who've never handled a family court case, who never know about the complexities of child abuse or parental alienation. And so highly manipulative parents or grandparents or entities that have a vested interest in keeping a child out of a loving, caring parent's home because of the strategy, finances, or abilities of another person, that makes it impossible to get past somebody who doesn't have the expertise, who doesn't have the finances to get somebody with the expertise to actually talk to the children and figure out what's going on. Our system is wrought with injustice by the level of bureaucracy that exists. Do you know how much money it costs for people just to get to an evidentiary hearing? That's just to hear the witnesses, just to hear the people talk about what's really going on. There are so many hearings and there's so many steps in that process where it's just the lawyers talking. It's not actually looking at the evidence. And that is a huge flaw in our system. We need to get evidence in front of these judges. We need to get those things taken care of where they can actually see and digest and get the continuing legal education courses that they need in order to do that.
And so with that being the case, how does a group like yours, like the Justice Lawyer League, that's providing the support that's often so expensive and so out of reach for so many children and so many parents and children together that are dealing with these cases of abuse and or neglect, how does that help to, and maybe not fully resolve the issue, but to mitigate the issue despite the inherent flaws that are in Michigan's systems?
Getting people the resources in these high conflict cases where there is abuse going on, because things like parental alienation are abuse of children. It is a mental and emotional type of abuse that is long-term impacts and huge mental health consequences for children. And so there are factors that highly trained professionals and lawyers who handle these types of cases can instantaneously figure out that this is one of those high conflict cases. We need to designate these high conflict cases as such. We need to have a lot of oversight. We need to have trained guardian ad litems and lawyer guardian ad litems who are interested in listening to their wards and not the parents who are trying to manipulate them and get them on their sides. We need to have a way by which we figure out the cases where one parent is trying to pit the other against the system as a whole or the child and cut that parent out, versus people who just don't know how to navigate the process of dividing custody, dividing their assets and their lives in an amicable way that doesn't impact the children in a negative way. Those people exist. This is a highly complex level of litigation in any aspect when you're dealing with child custody where people can't get along. Sometimes it's lack of education. Sometimes it's mental health issues. Sometimes it's outright abuse. And we need to be able to differentiate the two. And we need judges and legal professionals who can do it like this, who do not demand tens of thousands of dollars in resources from parties up front.
We're joined by Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins. She is the founder of the Justice Lawyer League, joining us on the Megacast. And so, Teresa, what impact does the holiday season typically have on situations of abuse and neglect? Do we typically see an increase in these cases or an increase in severity in existing cases during this season?
Absolutely. It's somewhat known in the family court system that you see a big divide. You see some people trying to reconcile or get better at co-parenting or say, family really matters and we're going to try to do better for our kids. Even if we're not going to stay together, even if we're not going to get along as adults, we're going to try harder. And we see some distance from the system. Other times we see children who are trapped long-term in situations that are abusive because the system wants children to be forced into family situations over the holidays. Or we have parents who are trapped in those situations. Resources are limited. You're focusing your money on things that are important for family and loved ones over the holidays. So you can't divert your resources to litigating and protecting your children when they're already as limited as they are to begin with. Our economy and everything is struggling right now. People are struggling right now. And unfortunately, we have a system where people take that out on the people that they're supposed to love the most. And that level of stress is evident in our system today.
So if someone in a family where one of the spouses is abusive to the children or to both a child and another member of the family, or in a situation where a child is being abused or neglected in either they themselves or someone else in their life, a grandparent, a neighbor, a friend, a teacher, whatever the case may be, recognizes that, what are the first steps that they should take to be able to provide the best care to that child and help them get out of that situation, or even the child and a member of their family that may be in that terrible situation?
Absolutely. So most communities, most counties have resources for domestic violence victims and victims of ongoing domestic violence. So if you're a family member or a loved one of somebody who you know is being abused, if you know that that person is not in immediate threat of harm, you need to call those local resources. So like in Livingston County, for example, you have La Casa, and they have mental health professionals, housing, resources to help people get out of those situations. If there is an immediate threat of irreparable injury and you know your loved one is in harm's way, call law enforcement. law enforcement are highly trained in detecting these types of cases and getting the evidence that you would need to get out or get that person out and put them under arrest in order to facilitate the process of you leaving and getting safe, or getting your loved one out of that situation and getting the child safe. Also, contacting CPS. While I unfortunately have seen many times where CPS has turned a blind eye to actual abuse, there are still many good people in that organization, and it is worth trying. It is worth reporting. It is worth reporting multiple times if you know abuse is going on to children.
And so then, Teresa, once it's been reported, once that process has started, how should they go about getting in contact with you or someone else in the Justice Lawyer League, especially if they need this representation and they're like most people, they're not able to immediately afford to make all those ridiculous payments that they have to make to a team of lawyers or to a team of different systems just to move their case along at a respectable pace?
Absolutely. Most law firms that do any sort of divorce or custody litigation have an intake process. A lot of lawyers do offer free consultations. And so take those opportunities to get those free consultations. If not, then you can call the Michigan Bar Association. They have referral services to pro bono or low bono, meaning reduced rate fees for people who can help. The Lawyer Justice League is still pending its 501c3 status, so I want to get going as soon as that status is complete. But right now, we are one step behind being able to run. Hopefully on the new year, we will be ready to fully take on cases and represent people within the capacity of the league. But we will start out by helping other lawyers who need resources. So for example, cases where people have already spent $10,000, they don't have the money to hire a forensic clinician to do the custody eval, to find out if parental alienation is going on. They can contact the Justice Lawyer League. We can vet if that's an appropriate case for that, and then the league can help finance that forensic professional, that forensic psychologist coming in and doing the evaluation that's so necessary to get that case moving forward and getting those children out of that situation.
Teresa, if other attorneys in this area of practicing law want to help out, want to help your organization and help these children, help these families through these horrible situations, how can they best get in contact with you?
My office phone number is that's my old number. My office phone number is 248-792-3060. I am presently with the Kirstauskas Law Group, but I am joining forces with Lisa Kirstatawa. She is the lead litigator and owner of that firm, and we eventually will become Kirstauskas Wozniak Jenkins. So that is the best way to reach us right now. You can also reach me at Teresa, Teresa, at K as in kite, D as in dog, lawgroup.com.
That is Teresa at kdlawgroup.com, and Teresa with the TH, Teresa at kdlawgroup.com. Teresa, thank you very much for joining us.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Today, it is easier than ever to join Michigan's Organ Donor Registry and help build a bridge of hope for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Just one person can potentially save or help improve the lives of up to 75 people. By joining, your legacy could be the gift of life. Sign up today at michigan.gov/SOS or at any of the more than 145 Secretary of State self-service stations located across Michigan. Be part of Michigan's Bridge of Hope by adding your name to the Organ Donor Registry.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources, call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Welcome back to the Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe here in our studios in West Bloomfield Township, although we broadcast all throughout the state of Michigan on a number of different television, radio, and web outlets. You can learn more information about everywhere that we broadcast by visiting our website at civiccentertv.com/megacast. I want to thank everybody for joining us on today's edition of the show. Judy Richmond from JVS Human Services, Janette Phillips from Share Detroit, Rick Bloom, a financial advisor at Bloom Advisors, as well as MC Rawthorne, one of the commissioners with the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission, and Teresa Wozniak-Jenkins, an attorney, for joining us on the show as well. Again, you can find all these interviews and our full episodes on demand at civiccentertv.com/megacast. We usually have them uploaded about mid to late afternoon on the day of our shows, and they replay on many of our outlets, including here on Civic Center TV throughout the afternoon. Big thank you to our entire crew, Calvin Brown, our studio producer and our board operator, Larry Nyland, our booking producer, as well as our Zoom producer, Jared Clark, over at our offices of My Michigan TV in Troy. If you want to learn more information about the top headlines across the state of Michigan, as well as keep up to date on coronavirus information, you can do so by going to our website at civiccentertv.com and clicking on our coronavirus link, which will give you those links to both the CDC, the MDHHS, the Oakland County Health Division, and our top headlines each and every day. We'll return to regular programming on Civic Center TV, and then we'll be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m.